In this episode of Paint Society, I'm going to teach you what it takes to use simple spray cans that are color matched so you can use it on your own project, whether it's small or big. And best of all, we're going to do it all from our own home garage. And this is exactly what we're going to be needing for our project today. And you can see that they come already in a primered finish. How do you tell that it's primered? Well, I'm going to show you right now. And the process for preparing primer and preparing raw plastic is different. So this is the first thing that you're going to need to do is just take a little bit of sandpaper, and this is 500 grit, and we're going to scuff it in one little area. And if you see black, like you see here, we know that that is actually primer. And once you know whether it's primer or it's raw plastic, then you can move to the next step. Now, if you were to bring this into our shop, probably would have cost you in and around $150 per Fender flare. Well, for the cost of just one in a body shop, we can do all four and get the same results using a color matched spray can and also our 2K aerosol clear coat. Basically the same exact thing that will come out of a spray gun, and it's perfect for projects just like this. And next up, we're going to use our sander. Now, this is completely not necessary. You can do it by hand. This just helps to promote a much healthier scratch, a much smoother scratch, and less aggressive. We're using P500 because we know that the primer on here is very weak. It's not a good primer, and we don't want to really bite into it too much and be too aggressive, or else that's going to create too much issues with the raw plastic. So you don't want to be too aggressive with something like this that you know could not be properly prepped, especially if it's aftermarket. So we'll bite into it a little bit with a least aggressive P500, and then from there what we'll do is we'll put on our own 2K urethane primer that we can trust, and then we'll sand that down and get it ready for paint. And now what we're going to use is a K600. You can use a piece of 600 grit sandpaper. You don't need to get this exact one, but I like it because it's easy. It goes on a hand pad, and we can get to all the tough areas that you might not be able to get with the actual sander. And these will be the areas that will actually start to flake off first. So make sure you focus a little bit of time into those areas so that you get a nice scuff. You can see the black primer coming off. And we don't want to remove it completely, but we're going to scuff it up and put a much better primer on it. Next up, we're going to be using some glass cleaner. And the reason why we're not going to be using the pre-painting prep, it's a little bit too aggressive and it will take that primer right off. We just want it to scuff it up. The glass cleaner is going to clean it up and get it ready for its next step, which is going to be the primer. And just like that, one is fully ready for primer. Now, I'm going to be repeating the same process on the rest of the Fender flares so we can get the job done right. Well, now that we have everything all scuffed and clean, we're going to be going with the 2K urethane primer. This is the same type of primer we're using at the body shop. Granted, it's going to be much thinner, but here's what we're really focusing about, the 2K. That means 2 parts. This is a spray can, but it's not your typical spray can, okay? On the bottom side, it's got a stem. On the bottom side, when you use this red cap to puncture the stem, what that does is it releases the catalyst into the rest of the actual primer itself. Let me show you that right now. So we'll take this right here, and right now it's 2 separate parts inside of the can. We'll use this, and we got to push it really, really, really hard. And when you push it really hard, you hear that. Once you hear that, we've just broken the bladder inside, which is like a bag. And now the two can mix together. And from this point, well, there's gonna be a little bit of a ticking time bomb, but I think you can get a few hours out of this before it starts to thicken up. So once you give it a nice shake for a few minutes, then coming out of this nozzle will be a quality primer. A non-quality primer is one that is just a typical lacquer primer that you get at your auto parts store, Rust-Oleum, Duplicolor, those are not quality primers because they're not 2K. Granted, this is going to cost you in and around 30, 40 bucks, but it's a superior product, and for at home, it's exactly what you're going to need to do results just like the body shop. And we got our flare here, and we're ready to put 2 coats on. We're going to lay down the first coat, and we're going to put it on medium wet, make sure we get full coverage, and then we'll apply one more coat to get a little bit more build, so when we sand it down, it's nice and smooth. It'll be ready for the next coat in just a few minutes once this shiny part starts to look a little bit more dull. And just 5 minutes later, it's already dulled up in this Florida sun, and we're ready for the second coat. We're about 2 or 3 inches away since it is a little bit of a windy day, and we want the majority of the paint to get onto the panel and not into the air. And now that it's got 2 coats on, let's give it a good 4 hours minimum to really cross-link and dry up good. In the meantime, I'm gonna show you a little bit of a heater you can use to get things kicked up if it's not drying quick enough if you're in your own home garage. Well, we're back here in the garage, and this is the heater that some of you might need on those colder months. I know it's getting really cold around here, but if you need a little bit of a space heater, well, this is what we got from Intercraft. This is one of their new max heats, and it's the MH68. Let's go ahead and unbox it and see what it has to offer. All right, so in the box, we have our, looks like our hose for the propane, a wrench that we'll need. Go ahead and get this thing unboxed. All right, not too heavy. So let's see if hookups are just as simple as hooking up a barbecue grill, basically. So this is the max heat. You can see it's probably about 8 inches. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. And yeah, we're looking at, wow, look at that, 8 inches, perfect. And the length of it, let's see, we're looking at around 16 inches, and in the height, around 14. So this is a nice little compact space heater, but we want to see really how hot it can really get up to temperature. Right now in South Florida, it's not hot. And it does have the dial here for the output, or how much heat control you want. So we'll go ahead, we'll play with that a little bit. We'll see how that one works out. We'll get the handle on. Get it all tightened up. Now this is actually my first space heater. I'm not sure how often I'm gonna use it, but again, I figured a lot of the guys on the YouTube channel, my subscribers, might benefit from something like this, because I see it very often when they make some postings on social media. I'll see them using a space heater, so maybe this will be able to help you all out. Let's go ahead and get it connected here to the inlet. We'll remove the protective sleeve, and then we're gonna put this on. The hose will screw right on. All right, and then it comes with the wrench, everything we need in the box. Good to go, and we'll connect the other line to the propane. All right, so we got it all hooked up to the propane tank. Now, one thing I do is read directions, and especially with this stuff. So it says to carefully, slowly open up the valve, but before we do that, we want to turn on the switch. So let's turn the switch on. All right, so at this point, it's just blowing air. Right, so I guess it can be a fan as well. It can be a fan or a flamethrower. So we're gonna go ahead and open gas. Open gas here completely. All right, open gas. And then open this a quarter of a turn on this control here, the output control. So that's about a quarter. Okay. And then let's take it to the next page. start heater, push and hold the gas valve on the left side with your left hand, and at the same time push and hold the ignition button on the right side with your right hand until heater starts to burn. All right, so we're gonna hit the two side buttons here. The valve, we'll just let the gas in and the ignite. That's it. We got flame. You might even be able to catch that. And we got heat. On a cold day, this will probably feel much, much better. But over here in the control area, we can turn it all the way up. And it's saying that you want to be 6 feet away from your propane, and we are. And we got full heat. That thing's throwing some heat out there. Look at that, that's really cool. And the heat goes out to about, I would say even, wow, this whole area, at least 6 feet, you can feel the heat. Super cool, super cool. So, nifty little space heater. Hopefully we can get to use it in some cooler weather. Now to turn this thing off, we're gonna kind of do it in the opposite way. Gonna turn this down, okay? I'm gonna turn this down this way. Turn it down, control it, all right? And then we're gonna turn the propane off. Turn it off. And then they're saying they want the fan to run for 30 seconds, okay? So 30 seconds, make sure there's no more flame, everything's kind of cooled off. We're already starting to get a little singe in there. Let the fan go. And then after a good 30 seconds, you can go ahead and you can turn off your fan. All right. So a nifty little space heater that you can use in your own home garage, but just make sure you keep in mind, and please listen, never use this while you are painting. An open flame while you're painting, well, you might as well just sign your rights away, because that's gonna be it. That will completely combust and it won't be good. No open flames while you're painting. Just after the paint has, you stop painting and the paint just needs to dry, then you can light this thing up. Or if you just need it in your own little workspace, I think it could really heat things up pretty quick. So hopefully you guys can check that out. I'll leave the link in the description. Let's get back outside and check out and see if everything's ready to go. All right, so luckily for us, we do have the Florida sun, and it dried these all up in a good 4 hours, completely cured. We're gonna be using a guide coat, not 100% necessary, but it will help you to show you exactly where you have sprayed. So it's a light mist coat that goes on the whole entire panel. And once you have that light mist coat on there, it's gonna show you once we go to sand, hey, we've sanded this area, but not this area. Hey, sand this area more. And we'll show you what that looks like. And we're ready to sand. Now we do have the DA sander from before, or we can use the block. Now you could have used the block all along, but now that the primer is all nice and dry, it can withstand the harsh scratches from the actual hand sanding, since it's a little bit more aggressive. Now we're going to be using the K600 again with the interface pad and its Eagle Abrasives block. And we're going to use a little bit of water here, because I like water because it helps keep things moving clean, and we can see where we've sanded by using that guide coat already. All right, so we'll just do a little bit on the fender flare here, and we'll give it a little bit of a sand, and that's, guys, all it needs really. And basically what happens is when we see that guide coat disappear, we can still see it in some areas here. But once you see that guide coat completely disappear, you know that you have a completely smooth surface, because what happens is the guide coat will go to the deepest part of the primer and all the little valleys, and it will sit there until you've sanded it down. So now we know we've sanded it completely. And there will be areas where you get a little burn through to the original primer, and that's just okay. We don't want the whole thing completely sanded off, but little areas like that, they're really not a problem. So this is perfect for what we got to do here, just a little bit of sanding, and this thing is going to be completely ready for paint. And while you're sanding, you might see the impressions of the mold, and that will happen. What we'll do is just give it a little bit of a sand. We'll see little dirt areas, and once that is all gone, once again, we're going to have a perfect panel for paint. Now these are the same exact procedures that we use in the body shop. There's no secrets here. These are just procedures. So that's exactly what we would do if you guys are paying $150 per fender flare. And as a final, I like to take the paper and the pad together and just go over those edges. When you go over those edges, that will help just get everything nice and sanded smooth. So when it's all painted, you're gonna have a nice, clean paint job in every single surface of the fender flare. And once it's all sanded inside and on the surface, you can go ahead with your water, give a little rinse, let it dry, and then it'll be ready for its paint job. And it's as simple as that. All right, so we're back here in the garage and we've got the inflatable booth all ready. Now, in no way do you need an inflatable booth at all, but the weather outside started to look rainy and windy and the fender flares were all over the place. So if you think this inflatable booth is anything like a real booth and it's not do-it-yourself, I'm gonna tell you something. Watch my videos so you'll find out this thing is really only good for keeping overspray off of everything else, and actually adds a lot more risk to it. So we're gonna go ahead and blow this thing up and contain the overspray as much as possible. And then we're gonna put in our little contraption of our fender flares. We're gonna get as many as we can mounted. So let's go ahead and get this thing all blown up. Just take our spray away glass cleaner. This is not an automotive cleaner, but you can see here it's ammonia free. It also doesn't have any added scents like lavender, fresh laundry, any of that stuff. So those added scents can actually sit on the surface as a film, and that film will cause fish eyes. So we're gonna be using our same microfiber towel to clean all of these. The reason why I like microfiber is because it really just picks up any of the lint, the dirt, and it absorbs so well. Now that we're all ready to paint, we're going to be using the OEM Select aerosols. Now these are color code matched to your vehicle. All you gotta do is give them the color code and then you are good to go. You can see it has all the different types of toners that go into it, just like what we do at the shop. And there's no difference in base coat, whether it comes out in the gun or whether it comes out of the can. It's the same exact thing, and we know this will match because it's got the same exact toners that will go into the certain mix. We'll use the tack rag first, and this will get up any last minute lint that might have landed on the surface of any of our actual fender flares that we're ready to paint right now. Now, we're ready to spray, and our first coat, we're not gonna go too wet because we wanna introduce the base coat to the actual panel itself. So we'll do a light coat, and then we'll do a light coat on all the rest of the flares, and then we'll come right back around and do a much heavier coat on all the flares and see how it looks after that. That's after 2 coats, and wow, it's looking really, really good. And it looks completely covered. Well, is it though? Here's the best way to find out if it's completely covered. We gotta turn the lights off and use a special light. The light we're gonna be using is this Astro Sunlight, and this is like only 65 bucks. And the Milwaukee one is good, but this one, I gotta say, for a fraction of the price of the Milwaukee, it's much, much better. If there's any spots that still look a little bit patchy, this is gonna show us. Okay, this is the truth right here. How does it look? Usually, catch that right in there, that area right there. Okay, this area looks a little bit patchy still. That looks a little patchy. I think one more coat. You can see all the metallics. Look at them in the air just floating. Yeah. I just want to make sure I focus on not so much the surface area, because I'm going to give that all one more shot, but is there any areas, yeah, see under here? That's all light. That's all light. So we're going to give it one more good coat, and we're going to focus on the areas that are a little bit lighter first, so we don't miss those, and then we're going to go over it. We're down to our second can. We have one more can to go, a total of 3 cans. I always say get the right amount of cans you think you're going to need plus 1. Man, it's coming out really good. Let's lay on one more coat. We're now ready for the 2K Aerospray Clear Coat. This is the same style 2K as the primer and the same style that comes out of my spray gun at work. So we're going to be applying 2 coats with about maybe 5 minutes in between coats. The base coat has been drying already for a good 20 minutes. This works in the same fashion where we're using the red cap. With the red cap on, we'll go ahead and push down really hard. Once we hear that snap, we've punctured the bladder, and we're going to shake it up for a good 5 minutes. That will ensure that all ingredients are completely mixed thoroughly. And again, this is another ticking time bomb because it will start to gel up, I would say after a good couple hours, depending on what the weather is. All right, we're all ready to go. I'm not going to tack these off or touch these. Sometimes with spray cans, if you just put it on wrong, and well, it can make it a little bit rough. We put it on good, but I don't know how you guys are going to put it on. I would suggest put it on a little bit wetter than normal. That way it dries smoother, but I'm not going to touch them. I don't want to get involved with anything that could really mess up the surface. So we'll go ahead and put the clear coat on, and 2 wet coats, about 5 minutes in between coats for this stuff. And man, this stuff's going to look good. Let's go. Check it out, guys. We're here about 30 minutes later. How do you think they come out? I think they come out really, really nice. So smooth. Even after 30 minutes, it's completely dry to the touch. And the way we got the rig all set up really helped us get full coverage in all of the areas that we needed. So where do we go from here? Well, let's let these completely dry, and then we'll get with Jeremy tomorrow. We'll pop them on the truck, and we'll see exactly how they look on the truck. But right now, I am super thrilled with the outcome. Let me know what you guys think so far in the comments. Well, these came out really good, and this is something that you can do in your own home garage. You can do it in the backyard on a nice day. You can put up to 3 coats on these panels if you need, or any project that you're doing. And I've used these spray cans many times on many small projects with great results. And you can see how these fender flares will be hiding up some damage that we don't want visible. So on Jeremy's truck, we're doing a lot of do-it-yourself projects with spray cans, turbines, and a lot of home remedies to get your project looking good. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it, it's just paint. We'll see you guys on the next episode.